Welcome to the Mommy Matters podcast. My name is Cecile Edwards of mommyEvolve. And here at Mommy Matters, we talk about all things mommy. So we have talked about everything from intergenerational healing, self-care, TV moms, all kinds of conversations about motherhood to illuminate and to give different perspective to the realities of motherhood so that we can start to find more value. I feel like the value we're not seeing the value and understanding the true value of motherhood because we have all of these false ideals about what a good mom is, what that looks like, and how people are supposed or women are supposed to function. Anyway, we can get into that later. But today I have a guest. Yay, a guest. So I have Saajida Richard, the author of MommyHood, The Real Deal for New Moms. And so, when I saw this, first of all, when I saw on Instagram, we met via Instagram, that this is the power of social media, right? And I saw her constantly encouraging mothers, constantly having real conversations. And that's what we need. And so, of course, I want to ensure that I, highlight women who are doing that so that you can find these women in your area, connect with them, because that's a huge part of mommyEvolve, ensuring that you connect with other women and keep it real with them, because you cannot live over there in your own little box. That ain't gonna work. I promise you. Anyway, so I'm going to turn it over to Saajida so she can talk about herself, introduce herself, and then we'll get into the juiciness of the conversation. Saajida?
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you so much, Cecile, for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate it. Just real briefly about myself. Like she said, my name is Saajida Richard. I am a wife, a mother, and author of MommyHood, The Real Deal for New Moms, which is available on Amazon. My social media platform is on Instagram at mommyhood_TRD. I'm just starting out to try to be a motivational speaker and really just encourage people in general, but my main focus is other mothers and just encourage them to be their best self, and to not feel like you have to be in a box as a mother, but you can also be a person and be yourself as well. So that's one of the things I'm really trying to do in my social media platform. I graduated in 2009 at Stony Brook University, upstate New York, with a degree in English. And I like to travel. I like to cook. And I also homeschool my son. My daughter's in school right now, but I'm homeschooling my son. So that's really
excellent. I love it. And how old are your daughter and son?
My daughter's 6 years old and my son is 3.
Okay, excellent. I love the conversation around, because oftentimes, and this is what many mothers get judged around, right?
Uh-oh. So there's a list. There's a list.
Girl, list longer than my whole body. Okay. Always being judged around. Oh, and we tend to. I know I did. I internalized that judgment, and because I'm a naturally, I don't know if it's natural, but I work a lot, right? And so that irrespective of what I've ever done, that's always been the reality. And so now as a mother, if you want to start a business, if you want to do XYZ and be a mom too, people judge that, oh, you should spend most of your time and all your waking breathing
every second.
Every second. The children child doesn't need to be away from you ever. So if you are doing anything that's taking your child away from you, then you're derelict of your duties as a mom.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of us, I think that's just something in society that everyone does. There's like these different expectations of a woman. And when you become a mother, it's like, okay, just like you said, okay, we expect for you to follow this list, our list of expectations. And if you don't, you're just a bad mother. And I think at the end of the day, you have to really decide what you want for yourself. If I give you advice on how you should run your life or run your family, what works for me may not work for you.
Right.
So how can we all follow a script? You take what works and you use that, but you have to really kind of make it to where what is working for my family.
Right.
You
And
know.
be okay with switching up, right? So, for example, for me, I knew that I wanted my daughter to be homeschooled as well. So she was for many years. And she just recently went to school because I came to the point where I was like, I'm doing too much. Right. Right.
Okay.
It's it was just, I was just like, I'm doing too much. She's ready to go off and be in school with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And be in, because, well, for the last year, she was just with me. And so she would
Okay.
go off on my adventures with me, which I think is also great. But, I knew that I had to stop. And before I did that, though, made the decision, internally, it was like this battle. And I was like, why am I battling myself when I know that this is good for me? I'm
Right.
battling myself because what I think other people will think,
Mm-hmm.
and how I internalize what I think other people will think. Like, oh, am I going to be perceived as a failure? Or, oh, am I going to be perceived as somebody who couldn't, measure up? Or, you know what I'm saying? All of
Right.
those things, instead of just knowing in yourself that this is something that needs to happen and making that happen. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And being cool with that. And I think that those expectations really hold people back. And this is something that people
Absolutely.
need to talk about before you even have children, quite frankly. You
Absolutely.
need to talk about this before you get married,
Mm-hmm.
because expectations is a killer for a lot of things,
Yeah, absolutely.
even things that we deem as positive, such as starting a business or,
Mhm. Yeah.
doing those things. What are these expectations that you have in your mind around this thing? And are they true? Have you researched? Have you talked to anybody about this? So I'm going to be real transparent. I didn't
Mhm.
read the book Mommyhood. Okay.
What? You what?
I ain't reading yet. I ain't reading yet.
Say yet.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yet.
Yet.
Okay. But just from the title, I know.
Right.
Okay. Because there's so many things that, like, I didn't know anything about postpartum depression, for example,
Mhm.
before I had a child.
Right.
I just reflected back, and after, she had gotten to a certain age, and was like, I was depressed.
Wow. Yeah.
I was having some significant challenges,
Yeah. And I
you
think a
know?
lot of times because we don't talk about it, it's like it doesn't exist. It's like, even just to take care of your child, it's like, okay, you're in the hospital, you give birth to your baby, you take your baby home, and it's just like, okay, what to do?
Right.
So there's a lot of things, and I'm glad that you have this podcast just to create these type of conversations to where it's
Mm-hmm.
not weird.
Mm-hmm.
These conversations are not taboo,
Mm-hmm.
because this is
Mm-hmm.
really like, helps to inform people.
Exactly.
And realize that these things do exist.
Exactly. And that it's okay to talk about them, right?
Absolutely.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that people know that they exist,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't know how to talk about them. They
Mm-hmm.
are hesitant to talk about it. They don't want to seem negative around talking about something that should be such a positive experience, or I don't know, whatever the
The
reasons for
expectation
holding the expectations.
like
Oh,
you said,
I'm
it's
not going to
supposed
look
to be a positive experience.
I'm supposed to look strong. And so if I
Right.
talk about the fact that I wasn't feeling well, but one thing, things that happen always lead you into um, breakthroughs, in my opinion. So you can take these negative instances and take them and really push yourself forward.
Right.
And one of the great things about the experience that I had with postpartum depression was, and my, having the understanding the real deal about motherhood, some of these real deals, because I'm continuously learning, by the way, because my child is 10. So I have more years.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, she's 11. Her birthday just
Okay.
passed.
The
Yes,
extra
correct.
year does mean something.
It makes a difference. And, and so I'm constantly learning.
Right.
And it pushed me into becoming a postpartum doula and
Mm-hmm.
understanding how to
Right.
not only what I missed, right, from not being nurtured enough after having a baby. It was kind of like you have the baby, then you take off running with
Mm-hmm.
the duties that you had to do. When
Right.
in fact, for millennia and years and thousands of years, women didn't do that. They took time, 40 days. That's where they get the 6 weeks from that you're out of work. You take those 40 days and you take care of yourself. You're taking care of,
Right.
you're making sure you're eating well, you're
Mm-hmm.
resting, because that's
Right.
a very, you're very open spiritually, emotionally, you're open. And so from my experience, I was able to observe, learn different traditions from around the world and how women did that after having babies. And it requires a lot of nurturing and support. Whereas we see that oftentimes women, after they have babies, first of all, everything becomes about the baby.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, let's nurture the mom and we know that the baby's going to be cool.
Right.
Baby showers with all these cute outfits. I mean, the outfits is cute and all. It's difficult. You know, I have a girl. So, you know, little outfits is cute. But I'm like, baby showers should be, you know, you should be bringing gifts for the mom too.
Right.
You know, making sure that she has, you know, things that are going to be useful for her journey or her sojourn as a mom now.
I think also, like, being that things are not set up like that, you as a person have to set it up for yourself in your life. Because you can't just wait on everyone else to come up with these ideas or wait for society or whatever to say, okay, now we're going to promote the mom. No, that may never come.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So if you make it a thing in your family and you make it a family tradition that whenever the girls, you know, they get of age and they have children, then just make it a thing that we honor the mother. Right. You know, we make sure that self-care is pushed and it's important. Because one of the things that keep me motivated to do the things that I do is that I have a daughter. Mm-hmm. So I try to make sure that I take care of myself because I need it, but I try to take care of myself because my daughter's looking at me. And when she becomes a mom, I want her to have that already in her mind to be like, okay, I know when I become a mom, I'm supposed to also take care of myself and make myself a priority too, because I remember seeing my mom do it, mm-hmm. you know? So if it's not in, you know, the way things are done now, we have to make it just as important in our life as well.
Absolutely. That is the critical point. And it's just the conversation I was having because I was, you know, in one of those mom groups. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of times the narrative can be really negative. Like, oh, I don't have time for myself. I think people are just used to that conversation. And so they just repeat it. Yeah. Right. Instead of breaking the cycle and taking themselves out of that conversation. Mm-hmm. And I'm always like, well, how can you make this happen? You know what I'm saying? That's always the question for me. Like, because I don't want to sit around thinking about how downtrodden I am all day. I'm trying to think about how I'm going to shift this. Mm-hmm. And if XYZ didn't work in the past, okay, how am I going to change that to be different now? That's the crux of mommyEvolve, and that's the crux of how are you creating new generational patterns? How are you creating new internal patterns? How are you disrupting patterns? Mm-hmm. And so the analogy that I used was, you know, if you fall into a well, are you going to, and you know people are going to be looking for you, are you just going to be like, all right, people are going to be looking for me, I'm going to just sit here until somebody find me? Or are you going to be yelling up out the well to say, I'm here, come and get me?
Right. But you know what was interesting is that some people will sit down and just wait and don't say nothing and suffer in silence.
Many people will. Or be stubborn and not want to heed lessons. Or, you know, there's so many excuses. And I'm talking to my own self because there's certain things, challenges that I have currently that I'm like, all right, Cecile, you know that this stuff ain't work. You have to yell out the well now.
Right. And sometimes we use excuses, but sometimes we don't know another way, you know, because we've never seen another way. So we think that this is normal. We think that literally draining ourselves of all energy, this is what I'm supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And that's why these type of platforms and my platform is so important because it shows another narrative. Exactly. It shows that you don't have to, you know, deplete yourself of everything. You can still be you, you know?
Exactly. You do not. In fact, it's absolutely critical for you to be you, because otherwise, how are you going to try to help another person develop themselves to be who they are and how they are and recognize who they are and nurture them in that if you yourself don't have the capacity to do it for yourself?
Absolutely.
If you don't know how to do that for yourself, then you're just going to constantly try to control, to make them conform, to push them in a box, you know, those kinds of things. And that just simply does not work with children.
It's just going to further frustrate you and stress you out. Next thing you know, you're taking it out on the children and all this stuff. And it's really not because the children are doing anything necessarily. It's because you're stressed and you're just upset and frustrated and all of this stuff. Exactly. So that's why it's good to have these conversations.
You're not going to have the patience to teach them these little things. And I've been there. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I've been there. But I had to internally say, this is whack.
Exactly. Yes.
I ain't trying to do that. And then I had to also recognize that it's what I grew up with.
Okay.
So I saw that. I saw the frustrations. I saw the struggles. I saw the constant, you know what I'm saying? And it was like, all right, I don't know what else to do. So this is my default, but I know that I need to move from this space to another space. And it could be the simplest things. It's like, so I'm going to give a very fresh example. So my daughter, she'll wash the dishes, right? And she'll put the dishes in the dish rack in a way that I'm like, this doesn't even make any sense. You have to turn the dishes down. And many times I would tell her to turn the dish, because if you have a cup, you have to turn the cup down so it drains out the water. So that because if the water sits up and the water pools in the cup, it could attract, little bugs or whatever.
Right.
That's clearly not something that was registering, right? And so I had to show her physically how to do it. Now I'm confident that she will do it instead of me constantly yelling from the other room and saying, and that's something that we constantly do. We don't show our children how to do something because we expect, again, there's that word, expectation. They should know how to do that. But how do they know if you ain't teach them?
Absolutely.
How do they know if you didn't teach them?
And a lot of times I think that comes from just always having a long to-do list. And it's like, okay, I don't really have time to show them. So just do it. Just figure it out. You do it. And then when they don't know how to do it because they really legitimately do not know how to do it, you get upset.
Exactly.
So it's really kind of like one of those I gotta check myself moments and go out there and then show her, like you said. Like I remember when my daughter was first learning to when she first got on her bike. In my mind, we're about to go outside and she's like, okay, I'm gonna get my bike. And I'm like, okay, get on your bike and just pedal. And she's like, huh? And I'm like, pedal, come on, pedal. And in my mind, I'm just expecting, like, come on, get on the bike and go. And I literally had to get on the ground and like move her feet to pedal. And she was like, oh, okay, now I know what this is. But if we don't take the time to show our children things, then we can't really expect them to know.
Correct.
We're like the first teachers.
Exactly. And that's so critical. It's like we burden ourselves with all these things, and we don't have the opportunity and the ability to slow down and show and teach and consider. And so this is a critical part of motherhood, is to really consider how you're going to be able to integrate the lessons that you need to teach your children in order for them to be, get to where they need to go. If you don't teach them about money, they're not going to know about money.
Oh,
if
absolutely.
you don't teach them about how to clean, they're not going to know how to clean.
Absolutely.
So first of all, you have to be very clear about what your family wants your children to know. And that takes you to take some time to excavate within your own self, what you may not have learned, the things that you wanted to know, some of the things that you wanted to learn better.
Right.
You have to excavate that thing. Then you also have to look at the social society, right? So right now it would be remiss if you didn't let your children learn how to do something technology, right? You would be, your child would be not giving them an edge, even if they love nature, teaching them something about technology so they can understand the foundation of what our society is being built on at this point, right? And so you really have to be very intentional when you're talking about the realness of motherhood. Like I feel like a lot of the conversation is around the whimsicalness of children and their behavior, but it's like, okay, that's cool, but what do you want to teach your child? Right? What is the structure and the foundation? Do you want to teach them kindness? Well, if you want to teach them kindness, then every time they do something, you can't be yelling at them. If you want to teach them patience, every time they do something, you can't snap.
Right.
You have to have a plan and some foundation and meat to how it is that you're going to function. Does that mean that if you do go off the edge and snap that you're a bad parent? No. It just means that you have an opportunity to teach your child how to do some things differently.
And even when we snap, because I'm sure all of us do it and have done it, it's okay. Now that in itself is also a teaching moment, because now how do you come back from that? You
Exactly.
just snapping because you're the adult. You don't say sorry if you're wrong. Because some people don't even say sorry to their children. Me personally,
Mhm.
it's like, this is still a person, even though it's a little person.
Mhm.
Okay, I was wrong. I apologize.
Mhm.
I'm not above the law, so to speak, just because I'm
Exactly.
mommy. And it was,
Exactly.
I was thinking about when you were talking about how before you get married or before you have a child, it's important to talk about having children before
Mhm.
you even get involved in that, you know? And I was just thinking about how, just like you was talking about being an intentional parent, like me and my husband, when we got together, we talked about these things. But of course, when you don't have children, it's totally different than when you actually have them, you
Mhm.
know?
But it's better than going in with an
So we
assumption.
actually
It's
wrote
better
down
than
like
going in with
a
an
list
assumption.
when we had our daughter. Absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. You got to start somewhere. But it's like when you're actually in it, you learn other things along the way, like kind of like on the job training. You learn things about yourself,
Definitely.
about your spouse, about where you want to take your family, because you may not want to duplicate the certain things that your family, how you grew up. You might want to try new traditions. Like for
Exactly.
us, what's important is travel. I didn't
Mhm.
travel a lot when I was younger, but travel to me is important. My husband's important. So we make sure we got them passports,
Right.
and we're trying to plan when we're going to start taking them out the country, to just really expose them to different things. Because when I was younger, I remember growing up, I remember
You're out.
every
You're
time we would come to on your summer vacation, and we would always have the same thing. Can you hear me?
you're breaking up a
Can you
little
hear
bit.
me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you a little better.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, and then when we come back from summer school, and all of my classmates have the same response. It would be either
Oh.
we did nothing for the summer, we had to go to our family members, and that was it. So I
Mhm.
said to myself, I'm going to see they're going to see the world.
Right,
So it's
right.
just really important, like exposure and family traditions and thinking outside the box. And even when you talk about money, I'm starting to teach my 3-year-old about money now. I
Mhm.
take my daughter, when I sell my mommyhood books, I take her vending with me, and
Mm.
she has her own products.
Mhm.
And so she can learn the concept of exchange,
Mhm.
of money. Money, there's value in this. I can take this and buy me a toy. So we break them
Mhm.
up into thirds. One third goes towards charity, the other third goes towards saving, and the other third you can buy whatever you want. But these are like
Mhm.
little seeds that we drop in our children. So I'm dropping
Exactly.
that entrepreneurship spirit in her,
Mhm.
that she'll be able to use as she gets older. So
Right.
it's really, really important what we drop in our children.
It really is. And you have to be very, as I said, reflective and intentional about what
Absolutely.
it is that you are creating with your child, and creating with your family. And, from a scientific standpoint, if you understand anything about epigenetics, and the way that our genes express themselves, we don't know how it will express themselves, but our experiences that we have as children can inform how they express themselves. So if you are growing up in a family where, abundance mindset is an issue, but you have a parent that disrupts that by teaching you about abundance, about managing money, about investing and all of those things, and about where
Right, right.
true abundance come from, then you're going to activate that in your bloodline, right? So this is
Mhm.
legacy building on a whole nother level
Right.
when you become intentional and reflective and building something new. You really
Mhm.
are literally changing DNA in your family structure, literally. And
Wow.
so, you have to be intentional about these things and teach your children
Absolutely.
about what that they need to know about, as well as being very open and honest about any family cycles that are harmful and destructive. Right. So there
Mhm.
are things in families that are secrets, and some people know, and people don't want to talk about it. And I know it's a difficult thing, right? But if you want to disrupt it and you want it to not happen, because things can skip generations. I've worked with people where, you know, some things happen, sexual abuse, for example, happened to the mom, but the mom thought that she had saved herself from it, but she didn't really get the assistance that was needed. And it ended up happening to, you know, her child. And so these things we need to illuminate, and we need to, and it's not an easy thing. You know, thankfully therapy is becoming more prominent and prevalent, and people are actually
Right.
going to therapy. But
Mhm.
these are the kinds of conversations that you need to have. And the more, I feel like, it's, again, it's not easy, but the more that you tell your story, the more that you are compassionate with yourself around your story, the better and easier it is to build a new story and a new legacy for yourself and future generations.
Right.
So, Saajida, I want you to tell us a little bit about what is in some of the highlights of Mommyhood, the real deal for new moms.
Woo! Okay. Mommyhood, the real deal for new moms. Well, at first, I decided to write. Well, I'll tell you how it started. I remember being at home, and I was pregnant with my daughter. And as a first-time mom, you already know we're reading every book we could get our hands on, just trying to mentally prepare and get everything together. And I had all these books surrounding me as I was sitting on the bed, and I'm reading through this one, and I'm reading through that one. And my husband, he was like, "Why don't you write a book?" And I remember in that instant,
I love that.
automatically thought, why would I write a book? Like, who's going to want to read my book? And as I said that, literally seconds after I said that, I looked around and I saw me reading other people's books. And I literally had to correct my thinking and was like, well, why wouldn't someone want to read my book? I'm reading someone else's book, and I don't have any problem doing that. And so I think sometimes we don't really see our value, like the information that we have. So we doubt ourselves. So literally right after I said that, it was like within a split second, I had to correct myself and like, no, why wouldn't someone want to read my book? I have we all have something to offer, something that someone else doesn't know that can help someone else.
Absolutely.
So from that point, whenever I would find like spare time or what have you, I would make sure that I would write a little something. And it was tough. Don't get me wrong.
It's not easy.
It was a lot. It was not easy because it's more than just writing. You have to write, then you have to edit, then you have to all this stuff and make sure you get your cover together and all that stuff. But what I did was just kind of like highlight the different things I thought new moms would need to know. So I talk about decisions. That's one of the chapters where I talk about, okay, you pregnant, boo. Now you gotta make some real grown-up decisions.
Put your big girl
panties go back
on.
to school? Basically, it's real right now.
As Mama Evolve would say, put your big girl panties on.
You know, are you gonna go back to school? Are you going to stay at home and raise your baby? Are you going to, like, what are you going to do? It's time for like to put everything out on the table and really think, you know, make sure you think everything through. So we talk about that. We talk about it's his baby too. That's another chapter where it's sometimes, at least the women that I have spoken to, we would, as women, I think we take on a lot. And we may feel that, or some of us may feel that, oh, only I can do it. I know how it's done. I know how to properly change a baby. I know how to properly feed the baby. It's like, okay, if your significant other is in the picture and this is a good person, let them do it. It's okay. Go get some sleep. You know, don't think like you know the right way. Your way is the only way. He can't do a good job at all. You know, his way may be totally different, but at the end of the day, if he gets the job done, let him do it.
Exactly.
That allows
and this
you
goes
to
back to, and this goes back to what we have seen, what we think should be. You know what I'm saying? And it also is a plug on how we misunderstand how powerful and important community is.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and these are the three themes that I consistently need to always pull out. It's like, why would you want to be the only one? That's a issue with control. And thinking that, you know, if I do everything, that it's going to be done right. Well, guess what? If you're always putting yourself in the burden seat of doing everything, then number one, you're limiting what you're able to do by what you know, and you don't know everything.
Right.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
always saying, look, I need my community of aunties to help me out with some stuff.
Right.
Okay. Because I don't even know what I'm thinking right now. And that's
Right.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. We have to learn to let that stuff go. Yes,
Absolutely.
we may set the some foundational things such as our values and things like that we, want to ensure that the people around us are teaching our children. But it's okay to even have people who have different values, as long as it doesn't go far to the left of what you think, because you're raising a child to live in a world that is layered. So
Right.
they get exposed to different things, they'll understand different things, and they'll become more street smart, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I didn't want to cut you off, but
No. Absolutely. I'm rocking with you. And one of the titles also, We're All In. And that basically talks about that support system, why it's so important to have that support system. And I was actually reading an article the other day, or I think it was a blog, and they were talking about how we all are promoting self-care so much, but none of us are really talking about the importance of the support system.
right.
And I was just thought to myself, like, there's so many different dynamics to families nowadays, where some people don't even have a support system.
Right.
Like, how do you cope with that when you are maybe a single mom? You may not even have like family support. You're trying to go to school and work. You have a baby. Like, it's really a lot to deal with.
And
So my
let's
book.
talk about support though,
Mm-hmm.
because yes, there are people who are single moms and such. And then there's some people who have isolated themselves from a support system because they may not be. Let's talk about the people who are in the support system. Like, if you are the person who is supportive to someone,
Mm-hmm.
be of actual support of what they're asking you for without being judgmental.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Offer your support. And the same thing, as you said before, everyone has something to offer. So even if you feel like you need all this help, you
Mm-hmm.
still have something that you can offer.
Mm-hmm.
So if you feel like cooking a meal, invite the person over that's always helping you to eat with y'all.
Right.
Do something, you know what I'm saying? Because you don't turn it into a victim, I'm a victim
Mm-hmm.
conversation.
Right.
I need all this help and nobody's helping me. So when somebody does help you, you take advantage of them helping you.
Oh Lord.
That ain't right. Okay. So, you have to see that. And again, you still have to be present in the fact that you are still the main leader in knowing what is happening with your children. And so I have to put that out there, because I've seen situations where people took advantage of their support system, didn't understand the usage. I may have been that person and didn't know. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? I may have been that, but that's not conducive to true community, right? So we have to be very cognizant and conscious of that. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think like, even with myself, like, you're still a parent. So that doesn't mean, oh, okay, I got the support system, I got my mom, I'm gonna drop them off at my parents' house or whatever, and I'm gonna, hit the club every other day. No, that's not
You
what
still
we're
in
talking
the
about here.
you still in the driver's seat. Look, you
Right, exactly. You get a little break every so often, once you hit a rest stop, but at a certain point, you gotta get back in the driver's seat. It's not no drop-off babysitting service for, the rest of your life, you
Mhm.
know. But I mean, I think, like, for me, I'm blessed to have a family where I can say, that lives close by, where I can say, oh, I need to do something. I want to go to this event, to this workshop. Can you watch my child? And, we, figure out schedules. Not everyone has that, and I think, like, if you don't have that, you have to put yourself out there to join different communities or different meetup groups, and to become friends with certain people and certain women. And then once you feel like you have a certain level of trust with people, then maybe they can become your support system,
Mhm.
you know?
Very
So
critical.
sometimes you don't always have a support system, but you have to seek one out, so to speak.
That's so critical. Again, all these conversations that I've been having just today.
Mm-hmm.
when you're looking for groups to join, so I gave the example earlier when I was talking to someone, they were asking me this very question about, so how do you find these support systems and these people to be around? I said, well, I follow my internal guidance system and I join groups that I'm interested in. So for example, I've met a dear friend through being in Toastmasters. So I was reading a book, right? And I knew that that was a personal development point for me. Like I needed to learn how to do public speaking and get over my fear of public speaking. So that was part of my development, personal development. And so I was reading the book, and lo and behold, this name of Toastmasters pop up. So I said, oh, I'm joining Toastmasters. So I go to a meeting, join Toastmasters, and now I have great people who I consider to be, you know, like a group of people that I can rely on if needed for something. And through that, I have, you know, and through joining, for example, a yoga class, through, you know, I've met so many people in different circles. Through putting myself out there as being a caregiver, independent caregiver, a child giver. I've met a lot of families that are now part of my circle. You know, it's like you have to do those things that the universe is nudging you to do. And it may feel tiring at times, but I promise you that it's the universe is nudging you to do those things for a reason. And that is a part of the way that you build your support systems pretty effortlessly, you know. And these days, you know, yes, you have to build trust with people, but, you know, I have cameras in my house, you know, things like that. Like, you know, there's many ways, there's many layers that even if you still have some hesitance, you know, you can, and I'm not saying just throw your child on anybody.
Right.
No, please don't do that.
Exactly.
Please don't do that.
I mean, me personally, I have to feel it within myself that I 100% trust this person. If I don't, then we can do something as a group, but you're not watching my children. You know what I mean? So that you always follow your gut. And I think like women's intuition is usually spot on. You know, for me, social media has allowed me to meet some really amazing people. Like just like you said, like I follow people that have the same interests as me. Whether it be whatever, whether it be photography, whether it be mommyhood related or whatever the case be. And when I go on social media and I follow these people, then I find out they have an event, or maybe I'm hosting an event and they want to come to my thing, and then you meet other people, but you have to really like put yourself out there. It will change if we don't put ourselves out there, you know, and we'll just stay in our little box and stay in our home and be frustrated. Because I was even having a discussion with another mom, and she was saying it feels good just to talk to another adult, you know, and I really believe in the power of an outlet and venting. That is healthy. We need to make sure we have support groups where we could just do this and just literally express ourselves. And I think when we do that, we won't be as frustrated as we are, because a lot of times you're doing for the house, you're doing for the children, you're doing. And it's like, I just want to be me. I just want someone to hear me. I just want someone to understand. But when you put yourself out there and go to these different groups, and you create an environment where people are ready to listen because they want to listen to you. They want you to listen to them, you know, but you have to get past the anxiety and really just put yourself out there. There's even like meetup groups. Go online. There's a meetup, www.meetup.com. I went on there when I was pregnant with my daughter because I felt like I was just by myself. I was the first one pregnant in my family. You know, so it's like, okay, my sisters are not pregnant. My mom is, you know, old school. You know, like how can I, you know, I'm looking for people my age that I can relate to. I went up on a meetup group. I found a community of other moms. And we went out to Brooklyn, to the Brooklyn Children's Museum. I never even heard about the Brooklyn Children's Museum. So that's another place I found out. We had conversations, and they were just enlightening me on so many different topics, and I had no idea. So like, when we put ourselves out there and we join these different communities, we're going to create like lasting friendships, and we're going to find so much information that we didn't even know existed. So it's like really important to just go out there and do it, face the fear of meeting people.
Right.
Just
and we live in this technological age where that is it's possible. We can build not just communities in our backyard, but all across the globe. Absolutely. You know, exactly, touching and agree. Okay, this is, you know, you have to do that. I've done meetup groups where I brought women together myself, I have,
Mm.
for not just for mommyhood stuff, but for homeschool stuff.
Right.
And
See?
I've gone to meetup groups. And so,
Right.
you have to put yourself out there. I mean, I've gone to events and I'm still friends with people 5, 6, 7, 10 years later because I went to this event,
Wow.
you know,
Nice.
and we
Mm-hmm.
have to take the opportunity to invest in ourselves, as well, to take
Mm-hmm.
ourselves to a higher level. So for me, one of the things that I did, I joined this coaching program called One to One, and it's free for women who have a certain income level. You know, at the time I
All
was a
right.
single mom working whatever, so my income level made the requirements. And and I had a life coach. And you know what I'm saying? And now I invest in going to therapy and things like that because I can, thankfully. Because so, you have to also invest in yourself and invest the time and or the money. And don't be afraid to do that. I was so appalled, and I keep on telling the same story because I know myself enough to know now that I'm sort of a maverick in whatever I do. I'm always coming up with like these novel ideas about how to do stuff, and people be looking like, and I'm like, but that makes sense though. Like, it makes sense to me, right? So when I started mommyEvolve, to me, it just made sense. mommyEvolve, you helping
Mm-hmm.
mothers to evolve, talk about intergenerational healing, self-care, yada, yada, blah, blah, whoop-de-whoop.
Right.
So I've become enlightened recently that whenever you put the name mom on something, people devalue it
Mm-hmm.
in a marketing sense. And I was like, I'm
Right.
sitting in this meeting talking to these women, and I'm like, really? Does that even make sense to y'all though? Like, that may be the narrative that people think, but is that something that don't you think that's something we need to change? And so I'm very clear
Right.
right now. I'm very clear that that's something that it has to be a part of what I do in mommyEvolve, to change that narrative. Just because it has mommy on it,
Right.
it's now
Right.
devalued. Does that make sense?
Right.
Nobody comes here in this world but through who they call mother.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's devalued to you? Like, I'm confused.
Wow.
I'm confused.
Wow.
So basically
Mm-hmm.
what people were saying was that people expected to be free or cheap or something like that. And I'm like, nah, I'm not about that life. I think that people need to value what it means to have a mom who is living in her best self, and the people who help usher
Mm-hmm.
them there or to help make her life easier. That's powerful in my opinion. Anyway, so I just wanted
Absolutely.
to
I
say that.
totally agree.
Yeah. Hmm.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm curious if you've ever heard that and what you think of that narrative.
I mean, I've definitely heard that. And what I found interesting about, what you just said was the simple fact that when you heard that being a mom, adding the word mommy or anything mother related to whatever you're doing, it devalues. Some people may say, oh, let me take that off. Let me change what I'm doing because I don't want my stuff to be seen in a certain light. But no, it's just so empowering that you was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to keep it on, and I'm going to further push my mommyhood agenda, because some people run away from that. But like, I have definitely heard that. I've heard, and I try to refrain from saying this. Like when someone say, oh, introduce yourself or tell me what you're about. Oh, I'm just a mom. Like I've heard, I'm just. Like, what do you mean you're just? Like, kind of like I'm not really worthy of anything.
I don't
I'm not
understand
really worthy
this.
of anything.
But
I'm at the bottom of the barrel.
I've been
Uh-huh.
there with my
Mm-hmm.
conceptualization of myself, right? And it's when I think about it, like I have these t-shirts that says mother of dreams, goals, visions, all of those things, because whether you're a mother or not, like you physically birth somebody, you're always physically birthing something,
Right,
right?
right.
So what are you birthing into this world? So to say you're just a mom of anything, or to conceptualize yourself, even if you don't have children, of course, it's a different walk if you do physically have the children, you went through childbirth, etc. But if you are in a community and you have women around you who have mothers, you have a certain responsibility too, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, I think we have to remove this this definition of mother that is so limited,
Right.
and be more proud in the process. I mean, listen, as I say all the time, you deliver a whole soul. You ain't just delivering a physical body. You
Yeah.
delivering a soul out your body. So you had to incubate a soul and then bring it into from the spirit realm into the physical realm.
Absolutely.
You think that that's not worthy?
I remember seeing some type of commercial. I don't remember what it was. I think it was Hallmark or something. And it was saying they was interviewing, you probably seen it, that they was interviewing people. And they was like, please come in for an interview. This position pays this amount of money. It was just, no, I'm sorry. No, it didn't pay the amount of money. They were just telling you like the responsibilities and the duties. And then they start saying, oh, you're not going to have any vacation days, no sick time, no leave. It's going to be around the clock, 24/7. People looking at it like, well, what kind of job is this? And then you're not going to get paid for what you do. And the people are like, no, I can't apply to this. What kind of job is this? And then they said at the end, being a mom. And that was like,
the gag.
Wow.
That was the gag.
And then some people cry because then you start reflecting on your mother and all that she has sacrificed and done to make sure that you have all these different opportunities where you can do. She self-sacrificed for you. And it was just kind of like, I love seeing that commercial. It was a Pamper commercial. I don't remember, but I remember the story. And just to really take time out and to think about that, like, wow. We don't pay as much respect to mothers like we should, but they do so much to make sure that we have. Like, I find that that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
Definitely. We don't see the role as a legacy building role and a role of, perpetuating life on earth, literally.
Yeah.
Because without life, you don't have anything.
Exactly. You wouldn't be here. Exactly.
What you got? Exactly. You ain't got nothing. And
exactly.
So, I think that we definitely need to pull up and pull back and start to revere. And what I have a class that I did a couple of years ago called Return to the Mother. Return to the mother, return to that concept of what that means and how powerful that is. And we will function differently in this world when we do return to that. We'll look at things differently. We'll be very careful of what we're creating. We'll, all of those things we'll have to start to unravel and think about. And, so that's definitely. So, Saajida.
Yes.
How can people connect with you? We're going to wrap up.
Yes.
Connect with you and get your book and etc.
Well, my book, Mommyhood, The Real Deal for New Moms, is available on Amazon. You can also go to my Instagram page, which is mommyhood_TRD. And that's where wherever I host events, I put my flyers on the site. I do my Let's Chat conversations, which is every Saturday in the evening. And we talk about a lot of different topics and just get really to talking about different things that we need to put on the platform.
Excellent. Yes. And that is how I came to come in contact with Saajida and connect with women in general. Have real conversations. Stop having these little surface conversations. I mean, I guess the surface conversations is cute and all, but have some in-depth real deal conversations. I promise you that those conversations are the most healing. Those are the conversations that's really going to take you from point A to point B and really push your evolution, because that's what we are here for. We are to push that evolution and that shift and that change within people. So with that said, thank you so much, Saajida, for joining Mommy Matters and discussing these very critical issues with motherhood and offering your encouragement consistently. We really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Creating that platform. And I hope to be able to see you again. I'm pretty sure we will work together in some capacity.
Absolutely. You stuck with me now.
Girl, this is how it be. Okay. You ain't getting away from me. Okay. And it is such a pleasure. And thank you all for listening. I know that you have gotten some great information from this podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast so that you can be up to date on all of the new episodes that come out, and also a lot of the past episodes. You can listen to those and share your feelings and share the podcast in general, because there's so many tips and tools that you can use, real tips and tools that you can use real time, like real time. Like if you implement this now, you go on shift type status, right?
Right.
So, continue to follow, and you can find me, my website, www.mommyevolve.com, where you can book mentoring sessions, coaching sessions, etc., as well as any of my other services. And thank you so much for joining. Peace and blessings.